even for local governments, it's going to be a very, very tall order. But if they have the support of the people, and I think the major problem is this: Nigeria is one of the few countries in the world where monies are shared directly to government at the federal, state, and local government. So the reality is that when you win an election, you are immediately stepping into money. And the money we're talking about is, you're talking about billions of now at the federal level. Look at the budget of the federal government, you're talking about trillions. At the state level, we're talking about billions. So it is the expectation that these politicians bring to bear on the conduct of election that is the major problem, because they recognize that once they win the elections, they are having access to money to spend. So it is that aggregation of competing interests that creates the friction that makes the elections in Nigeria what they are supposed to be, what they're not supposed to be. If we were in a system, for instance, where state governments or federal government had to generate about 70 or 80% of their revenues, and you know that if you go there, you don't have what it takes to generate revenue to run and fund the affairs of the state, then that would even curtail the quality of the people who are going. You will get people who are a bit more cerebral, people who can think, people who can marshal out plans and come up with ideas about how we want to move the country forward. So it is that expectation of the politicians that is creating the problem. And when you bring that pressure across 36 states to bear on a single institution like INEC is made up of human beings, and in such a situation, crisis can
human beings who are Nigerians.
Yeah, sorry?
Human beings who are Nigerians.
I don't think it is because they're Nigerians. I think it is the expectation that people bring to bear. Expectation. I'll give you a very simple example. In I think it was 2011, INEC decided to try a novel idea of using NYC members for elections. Now, people knew they couldn't bribe these NYC members. So what did they do? In some parts of the country, some of these people were killed. Because people recognize that if I can deal with this young boy, it doesn't matter that he's just graduated from university, it doesn't matter that he's not committed any crime. If I can handle him, I have the results that I want. And in some states in Nigeria, some of these young boys were killed because people want to, to enforce their own position and establish it, and that creates the kind of crisis that has made the president decide that it is better we put soldiers on ground to militate against some of these issues and moderate people's expectations.
Okay, talking about the president saying it's better to put soldiers on ground, would you say he's justified in this massive deployment? Because when it comes to the presidential elections, we are not going to be borrowing soldiers and police from other countries. Would you say he's justified doing this?
I don't think it's the issue about justification. You have to look at this from the president's perspective. If you're the president of the country, you sit on your table. Every day you get security reports regarding what is happening in the country. And based on these security readings, you have to decide how you deploy the resources at your disposal. What is the issue? You want to guarantee free and fair elections and results that are credible. Now, the military is not ordinarily the best organization or institution to do that. But the fact is that if you look at Nigeria today, one of the few institutions that Nigerians still fear is the military. The police, as it were, I always tell people, when you're on the road, sometimes it is better you meet a policeman, because the attitude of Nigerians towards the police over the years has eroded a lot of their respect. With all due respect to the police, I'm not sounding up this year, but the military still remains the institution that people fear. So if their presence there is what moderates people in terms of the kind of aggression or the kind of force they want to bring to bear on changing the outcomes of results, I would like it. I would think that one of the most disastrous things that happened, the 2011 elections, was the killing of those young boys. I need the presence, because I noticed that INEC has also decided to stick with using the NYC boys and girls for polling officer, presiding officers. If that is still going to be the situation, then everything should be brought to bear to protect those young boys and young girls in the discharge of their duties. It should never be mentioned again that because people who are on national assignment were assigned electoral responsibilities, politicians mobilizing and using riotous crowd decided to take out their anger on these young boys and to put them to death before their time.
Okay, talking about the INEC preparing for 2015, you've expressed some concerns. How do you think, what would be your recipe to INEC to having this election just the way the Osun and the Ekiti has been described as credible and free and fair?
I think it will require a lot of planning. They would also need a lot of resources in terms of giving their financial grants well before time. And then I would think that we need to look across board. Like I said, logistics is going to be a key issue. we need to mobilize all bodies that have excellent logistic departments and conscript them for national duty to make their resources available on that day. So for instance, we have organizations that are in the private sector that have excellent logistic departments. We have government institutions that have excellent logistic departments. We have the Nigerian military with its excellent logistic. We need to bring all of them to bear, bring them into that planning stage and ensure that voting, because that is what is going to be a key decider. If we can get the ballot boxes and the ballot papers to the polling stations in good time to allow accreditation and voting to commence so that vote counting can take place well before the evening time, then it would mean that in each polling station results would have been announced, collation can take place, and just like happened in Osun, before the close of the day, before the say 8 or 9 in the night, the election results would already have been announced, so that cuts out the opportunity for a lot of mischief, because most times what often happens is that when the election materials get late to the polling station, voting takes place late, counting of results takes place late, collation of report takes place in the dead of the night, and of course, in the dead of the night, in a situation where you don't have regular power supply, and you're having to use lantern and torchlight to count ballot papers, a lot of atrocities can occur. So if we can get things done fast and early and get the results announced before evening time, then I'm pretty sure that in 2015 we'll have good results.
Mr. Johnson here. You've just been hearing Kingsley say that the counting happened very quickly and the results eventually, I think I was watching through the course of the night as channels covered the election up until 6, 7 a.m. in the morning when the result was announced. Would you recommend that INEC should now consider using more of electronic ways of accessing results and calculating results? Because what we witnessed through the course of the night, we could see the resident electoral commissioner doing the calculation virtually manually to get the final result.
You see, when Kingsley was talk about logistics and which has to do with infrastructure that has to be provided by those that were elected into office, in terms of road network, in terms of internet facility, in terms of power supply. You see, basically, that is the future, and that is the trend that we need to follow. As soon as you are through with your voting, if you are using electronic voting, there's no way you can, as soon as you are voting, your vote is being counted, everything is being summed up. You just imagine us doing this transmission without latest technology. Are you with me? So basically, there's a need for us to embrace e-voting. That is what will help us to solve some of the problem of this militarization of the electoral process, the issue of rigging, and the issue of contesting of election result after voting. It is in Nigeria that we spend a lot of money in post-election, a lot of money on litigation, that people keep going to court 1 year, 2 years after the election. So basically, we need to embrace that so as to take care of some of the logistic problem that we have in the country.
Okay. Well, there was something Mr. Omos said earlier about the people supporting INEC. In what form do you think this support can come from the people?
Well, if we are allowed to our civic responsibilities, it should come as second nature that we support INEC. INEC is made up of human beings. They have a whole lot of logistics to grapple with. But as Jide said, I think technology will what will save us in financing our electoral process. There's nothing wrong. INEC has been talking about permanent voters register. And we have this permanent voters register that is biometrically compliant. The question of accreditation and all that becomes a very easy thing. You don't even need to do accreditation. You come and you put your biometric identifier and you identify, you vote, and it is captured electronically. You go, you don't even need to stay, to hang around, because there will be no physical ballot boxes to carry, to stuff, and to manipulate. So That's part of the problem of our government.